What's going on? Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to go over the upgrade path to upgrading your speakers in your WRX. Now if you don't have a WRX, that's fine. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about will probably apply to your car too. I'm getting ready to install these speakers right here in my front doors. I just installed sound skins on all 4 of my doors to seal the large cavities, to reduce the vibrations within the doors and make it act more like a sub enclosure, along with reducing road noise. All of that actually worked, and it worked phenomenally. And I did that so that I can get more mids out of these speakers right here, which is the speakers that I had, the OEM kicker upgrade in the WRX. Now, I thought I would be happy after doing that with these speakers, and I mostly was, but it sounded so good that it really made me want a little bit more bass. And since the doors now can handle it with all of that sound skins installed, I decided to upgrade to better speakers just in the front. So what a perfect opportunity to show you the difference between the stock speakers that come with the car if you don't have an upgraded audio system in your car, the OEM upgrade solution, which is this kicker right here, and an aftermarket speaker. Now, this is not going to apply to those of you who have the Harman Kardon package in your car because you already have a component upgraded speaker listening experience in your car. If you want to upgrade that, that's a whole different conversation and a little bit more complicated than what I'm going to talk about here. But the rest of you who have the regular stereo in your car with these speakers right here, I'm going to show you exactly how you can upgrade your speakers in your car, all of the parts that you're going to need, and the things to keep in mind when you're shopping for speakers. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so let's talk about the stock speaker and why it's a good idea to replace it. So what we have here is a very basic mid-range speaker. It's a 4-ohm speaker, 4 ohms impedance, and we'll talk about impedance in a little bit, but it says right next to it max 35 watts. So it's a very low power speaker, but it's actually perfect for most stock head units because most stock head units are actually very underpowered. And also the bass in most stock head units is rolled off. So as you turn up the volume, the speaker gets louder, but the bass doesn't compensate as you go up in volume. This speaker right here really doesn't do anything very well. It doesn't do well with the lows because it's very underpowered. So it's not going to give you very good lows at all. And it doesn't have a built-in tweeter within it. So it's not going to give you very good highs either. So this is not going to wow anyone. But it's cheap for the manufacturer to produce, and they put them in all their cars. And by putting this in your car, they're pretty much guaranteeing that you're not going to be happy with the sound system in your car and that you're going to pay for something like this so that they can make more money. This right here is the kicker upgrade. It's an OEM speaker specifically made for this car. Because it's made for this car, it already has the speaker adapter right here that plugs right into the cable that's in the car, so you don't have to do any cutting of any kind or splicing. It already has the 3 mounting holes in the exact location where they need to be, and it's also angled the way it's supposed to. So you can see right here that this part right here, it's wider than that part right there. That's so that the speaker is angled up towards the listener. This speaker right here, it's an obvious upgrade over this speaker right here. This is what's known as a coaxial speaker because it has not only your mid-range woofer right here, but it also has a tweeter built in for the highs. Now, this speaker right here is considered a full range speaker, and you don't need a crossover network because it comes with a crossover already built into it. So when the speaker gets a full signal right here from the head unit and it goes through here, the crossover network that's built into the speaker is only going to send the very high frequencies to the tweeter right here, and then the rest of the frequencies to the woofer right here. So you don't have to worry about having active or passive external crossovers. It's all built in. This speaker obviously doesn't need that because it doesn't have a tweeter or anything else. As far as power is concerned, this one says max 35 watts. This speaker right here, power handling, 50 watts average, 50 watts RMS, or 100 watts max. Huge improvement over this speaker right here. When you install this speaker right here with that jump in power and a built-in tweeter, you can expect a little bit more mid bass out of them, and you can expect better definition. And I was pretty happy with these speakers for a while. These speakers right here are going to satisfy most listeners. But once I installed that sound skins, it left me really wanting a little bit more in the mid bass department. When you upgrade to these speakers right here, you'll be able to go louder in your head unit without any distortion at all. In fact, with the stock head unit, you'll probably be able to max out the volume, and these will not distort. They'll sound great all the way through. But if you upgrade that head unit, you're probably not going to be able to max out the volume in your head unit with these speakers. But what I really do like is mids, right? I like my music very punchy. When I installed the SoundSkins, these speakers were giving me way better, clearly defined mid bass, and it left me wanting more. That's when I decided to upgrade to these right here. These are an Alpine R series speaker, and as you can see right here, it has a built-in tweeter, so this is also a coaxial speaker. And although it doesn't say it, this one is rated for 100 watts RMS or 300 watts max. So it's a huge improvement over these. And you can see just based on the size of the speaker, even though they're both 6.5-inch speakers, you can see the difference in the foam, which allows it to flex and allows that cone to move in and out as the bass is hitting. And you can also see it in the distance that the cone has to travel. So I don't know if you can see that right there, but this speaker right here has much more distance that it can travel than the OEM kicker upgrade right here. Now you might be wondering why this speaker is better than this one right here, even though this one has a much bigger magnet. And that's because the size of the magnet doesn't matter. What matters is the strength of the magnet. So you can use a much more powerful material on this speaker than this speaker right here, and you can get away with installing a smaller magnet, which is great because it actually reduces the weight considerably. So the weight of the SoundSkins installation in those front doors is actually going to be offset by taking these speakers out and putting these speakers in. Now the speakers in the WRX are 4 ohm speakers. These are 4 ohm speakers. When you're doing your research for an aftermarket speaker, make sure that you're looking at 4 ohm speakers. You have to match the impedance, otherwise you can come across some issues that can possibly damage your stereo. Another neat thing about these speakers in particular is that you can actually angle the tweeters to wherever you want so that it's more directed. What I'm holding right here is the stock tweeter that comes with a car. So you'll get these tweeters with these speakers right here in the car. These tweeters right here are enough to do the basic job. In my car right now, I have the kicker upgraded tweeters. They're actually smaller and lighter. But what I want to talk about, if you look right there, it says 35 watts max. So this is for low power applications, appropriate for the stock head unit, but it's also 6 ohms. So when you go to replace it, you make sure that you replace it with one of equal impedance. Now this speaker right here has a built-in filter right there, so it's only going to allow the proper frequencies through, but you can still overdrive the tweeters and have distortion if you overpower them. So it's a good idea if you're upgrading the head unit to also upgrade these tweeters. They're not powerful. That's pretty much the same story with these speakers. What's going on here is these speakers are 100 watts RMS and these are 50 watts RMS. With a stock head unit, these speakers right here are actually going to be louder than these. The head unit is actually going to be able to drive these closer to where the speaker is most efficient because it's a 50 watt RMS speaker. So if you feed the exact same power to this speaker right here, this speaker right here is not going to be able to get as loud as this one because it needs more power in order to be as efficient. So where that becomes important is when you're considering the tweeters in the equation. Why do I say that? I say that because if you're going to start pumping more power to the front channels, you're also going to be pumping power to the tweeters. And that's because the tweeters are actually parallel with the front speakers. It's not 6 channels. You don't have 2 channels for the rears, 2 channels for the front, and 2 channels for the tweeters. No, you have 4 channels. You have 2 channels for the front and 2 channels for the rear. And the front channel is actually paralleled with the tweeters. So it goes just like this. So if you buy a speaker like this one right here, just know that there is a possibility that you may overdrive your tweeters when you go and try to bring these closer to what these are most efficient. And if that happens, then you have 2 options at that point. You can either upgrade the tweeters or you can install a crossover network to actually limit the power that goes to the tweeters. I do want to talk briefly about some terms that you're bound to come across if you're shopping for an aftermarket speaker in your car. So like I said, this is a coaxial speaker, but you're going to see 3-way speakers out there. You're going to see 4-way speakers out there. And what you end up choosing, it's entirely up to you. A 4-way speaker versus a 2-way speaker has 2 more drivers basically. And then the frequency spectrum is split amongst the 4 drivers. So each one is going to take care of the frequencies that it's made to reproduce. So it should, in theory, sound better, but that's not always the case. a high quality two-way speaker is fantastic, and you don't really need to go for a 3 or a 4-way versus a 2-way that performs better just for the sake of having a 4-way. The reason why you can get away with that is because they have built-in crossover networks. So that's what these capacitors are. So because the speaker has a built-in crossover network, it's considered a full range speaker. So you can feed it a complete signal, and the speaker is going to filter whatever frequencies it needs, and it'll send it to wherever it needs to send it. There are systems that are superior to these systems that are called component systems, and those are a little bit more complicated. That's not what our car has from the factory. In a component system, you are going to send the lows to a speaker, the mids to another speaker, and you're going to send the highs to a tweeter, and you're going to install crossover networks that are going to handle all of that splitting up. If you spend the money and take the time and you have the know-how to do a component system, it's going to sound far better than a system like this. But that's really for people who are really demanding of their music. Most people are going to be just fine with this. I'm pretty demanding of my music, and I'm just fine with something like this in this particular car. A lot of speaker series like these right here will have the version that is a full range like this one, and they'll also have the component version. Just know that if you get a component system like that, you're not going to be able to use the wires that the tweeters are using right now, because those wires are in parallel with the speakers that are built into the car. You'll have to run all new cabling. So when deciding which system is right for you, keep that in mind. If you get component, you'll have to run new wires. And if you use full range like these, you can use the existing wires that are already there. So in summary, the stock is a low power speaker, but it's light and it's appropriate for the stock sound system only. It's not particularly good for lows or for highs or for music with really high definition. So it's not good if you upgrade the head unit. Your kicker OEM upgrade is appropriate for an upgraded listening experience, and you just cannot beat the ease of installation with these speakers right here. Once you upgrade the head unit or add an inline amplifier, these speakers right here really come to life, but they might not be enough for the most demanding listeners. The aftermarket speakers here, you get much more for your money and a greatly improved listening experience, but they do require the proper wattage in order to get the most out of them. So you might be jeopardizing your tweeters, or you might need an amplifier to drive these speakers and really get the most out of them. Otherwise, it's no point in upgrading from these speakers right here, because these are enough. This video was getting a bit long, so if you're interested in seeing exactly how to install the speaker in the WRX, be sure to check out part 2 where I'll go over it in detail. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care.